This is the Sports Sitdown with Mike Damergis.
Mike Damergis along with Professor Matt Carey from the LaPenta School of Business at Iona College. And Matt, Met fans were cheering. The Wilpong's gone. All the Madoff stuff that went on for 10 years, gone. Enter Steve Cohen, the savior, buys a team for $2.4 billion. And guess what now? A lot of sketchy stuff going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I like to call it post-Wilpon derangement syndrome. And I think that Mets fans are so used to having to use another analogy, Lucy pulling the ball away from Charlie Brown every time. I don't think you got a lot to worry about. I mean, Steve Cohen, there's a lot of great press that's going on about how the big boys have had their hands slapped in the cookie jar. And I think the thing you got to separate out here is that you got to separate his hedge fund, which is .72 asset management, which probably has around $20 billion in assets under management, which a substantial amount of his own money, but also money from lots of investors, and what his Cohen's net worth is, which is, he's probably worth $15 billion, I would guess, himself, that we know of. It's the details get kind of sketchy, but that's where the money to buy the Mets came from. I mean, the guy's art collection is worth over $1 billion in and of itself. He could just, sell a Picasso and basically fund the Mets for the year. So
Matt, you're basically saying the Met fan doesn't have to worry. The other baseball owners don't have to worry, and kind of set the table. Is this something? I mean, this is something that's unusual that happened with Robinhood here, and of course GameStop, whose stock on January 1st was $18.84, and just the other day on January 27th, $347.51, and now it's down to $1.93, up 434% for the week. For last 3 months, over 3,000%, and for the year, close to 9,000%. So a little chicanery going on here.
Yeah, see, one of the things with Robinhood, and the thing it's been criticized for, is it's called the gamification of investing. So what they've done is they've basically targeted a young demographic who and made it a lot like a video game. So you and I remember the day trading, what turned into the day trading debacle from around 2000 with the tech stocks and the IPOs. And what winds up happening in all these cases is that small, less sophisticated investors wind up jumping in and thinking everything's great, and they get the rug pulled out, and they lose quite a bit of money. It's sort of like thinking the pros here, Cohen and Ken Griffin at Citadel are kind of, they're not even the ones who are bloodied. It's Gabe Plotkin who runs this Melvin Capital, who was short. And Cohen he was a former Cohen guy. So he had to put it, and didn't have to, but he put an investment in it. And so did Griffin. And that's where the money's coming from, their own hedge funds, to keep this guy afloat because they have an investment. And when you say that, Mets fans are worried because they keep seeing these headlines that Cohen's down 15% in January. Well, that's hedge fund business, and the guy's a tremendous risk manager with a long track record. And, being down 15%, what does that mean? It's not, it's not mark to market, as we say in the business, where basically he's sold securities and locked in a 15% loss. He's just, along the way, you're up and you're down, and right now he happens to be down, and it's January, so we arbitrarily start the year on January 1st.
10 years ago, we saw Wall Street versus Main Street, and now it's the college kids against the Wall Street bullies. It's almost the 1980 U.S. hockey team taking on the elite Russian squad in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've seen is that social media makes it very easy to create a mob, if you will. So you remember the flash mob from a few years ago, and
sure.
you could all of a sudden pull people in together. Well, this is what's going on, and we saw it with the storming of the Capitol, and we've seen it just in watching Twitter, and you get people on a particular topic. And this subreddit has been Wall Street subreddit has been out there for a while, and they got some notoriety last year. But essentially what happens here is you get a couple of guys who are sort of cult figures, this guy Chamath and this guy that everybody knows about, Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, and they have huge followings. So they can tweet things out and get people riled up, and they get these, and when people start to sniff that they've made a bunch of money, other people come flying in. I mean, I can't tell you how many of my kids' friends who are teenagers up to the age of 25 have been talking about Robinhood and getting on board this, and they're putting money in there, and they have no idea because they've made some money, but they don't know that when the bottom falls out, it falls quick, and somebody's going to get left holding the bag. There are very sophisticated individual traders who are out on Wall Street. So they used to sort of sneeringly call it the dumb money retail. It's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of people that have an experience in trading who are out there doing this, but they also know they get in and out quick. And this is not an investment. I mean, this is a momentum play. The fundamentals of the company wouldn't indicate that this valuation is justified. And it's really just a momentum push, and you've got a lot of money coming in and pushing the stock higher because there's a ton of buying on it. And that it's very hard. These investors that are short, these hedge funds, being short's hard because, as we say in the business, when you buy a stock for $100, the most you can lose is $100. But when you short a stock at $100, you can lose infinite amounts of money because the stock can go to the moon. And that's pretty much in practice what's going on here.
We're in a pandemic here going on a year now, and it looks like it could go on another 6 months, maybe. Could be another year. We don't know. Unemployment, again, is, over 800,000 for the month of January now. Stock market is down on this latest news here, but it's still above 30,000. So we have a lot of unemployment. We've got a pandemic going on, and the stock market remains above 30,000, and it had dropped below 20,000 when this pandemic first started. What if I was looking at the market right now, what makes sense? What am I looking at here? Because it doesn't add up.
Well, the first thing you got to do is separate out the economy from the stock market, and the stock market is a discounting mechanism, so it's always looking ahead to the future. The economy is real time. I mean, it's what's going on. There's lots of pain in the economy. There's high unemployment. There's a lot of small businesses that are maybe never going to make it through this pandemic. But the stock market is a discounting mechanism of future earnings. And what the stock market, if you remember, last February and March, the stock market got beaten to shreds before the economy did. So it was looking ahead to the great unknown, and then things bottomed out to look ahead as to, okay, what's the opportunity? So the stock market's discounting future earnings, and there's a big bet that when the restrictions come off, that the post-pandemic is going to unleash a roaring 20s type of profit-making opportunity for a lot of these companies. You've got Netflix and all these other streaming services that have come up, Spotify. So all of these things that people did when they stayed at home. And now, in addition to that, those things have sort of slowed down a little bit in terms of their arc upward, but you've got, energy companies. Best performing asset class in January. Why? Well, because once the economy gets humming, you need oil and you need energy. Plus the green, Biden's in office now. There's an emphasis on clean energy. That sector is going to get some money. So all of the stock market stuff that's leading the market upward is looking ahead and saying basically the worst is behind us. It doesn't mean we're not going to sit in a mediocre economy and high unemployment for a while, but it has created sort of a haves and have-nots.
And one thing that's been filled with haves and have-nots through the years is sports, and how sports teams spend their money. And we're looking at, even teams like the Yankees lost a ton of money, so they were not unhindered by what happened last spring, what's going on right now. Is this a good time to be owning a sports franchise? Because in one hand, you're not going to have people in the games, but people are going to watch.
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest thing, and I think the reason why the NBA came back and others followed suit is because of the big four sports, the majority of that income comes from broadcast. and it's not from putting bodies in seats, which ironically, the surrounding communities are probably the ones that get hurt more by not having bodies in seats, because you don't have people going to dinner, and you don't have people going to the bars, and you don't have the hot dog vendors and all these other people, T-shirt salesmen who are around making any money. But the broadcast is the biggest part of it, which is my prediction of the year was there's no way in hell that there's no March Madness this year. It might be in May, but it's going to take place, and it's got to happen, because they missed it last year because it was too early in the pandemic to make a decision to try and play. But whether they have to have a bubble or do something, they're going to have it, because the NCAA relies so much on that revenue. I mean, they don't get as much from the bowls, but they get so much from that TV revenue for March Madness that they've got to play, and they've got to do it because, a lot of the other sports, not just basketball, rely on that revenue that's coming in from March Madness, and that the conference is split up. So they got to play it. Last year they got a portion of it because of the insurance policy and some other things, but it's just a non-starter to not try and do it, especially at this point when we've got a model that it does work. I mean, you got the NBA in a bubble. If you have to do that with NCAA, I know there'll be the hue and cry about athletes and exploitation and this and that, but a lot of these kids want to play in the NBA, and that's their chance to shine on a national stage.
Usually the Super Bowl gets over 100 million viewers. This year we have an incredible matchup of really a transfer of power of superhero quarterbacks in Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Do you think we might eclipse 120 million for Super Bowl viewers this year?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, what else is anybody going to do, right?
Exactly.
I'm only half kidding. I think the Brady narrative is just unbelievable when you step back and think about it. And I'm a New England Patriots fan, and of course there's that nonsensical argument of Belichick versus Brady. And but hey, Tom delivered, and Tampa delivered. The new city of champions, Tampa, Florida. I think that you could have, because of the lack of other things going on, and the fact that once we haven't even gotten the hype machine rolling yet. I guess when there's that 2-week break, it starts this weekend. But the Mahomes, Brady, the young guy, the passing of the torch, see what can happen. Brady goes for immortality again, and Mahomes goes for, I'm the new big dog. So you got a great narrative there. And I think they can ride that pretty hard, along with the fact that they're going to get absolute focus this week.
Well, nobody gives a narrative like you, Matt Carey from the LaPenta School of Business at Iona College. Thank you so much. As we did some Mets talk, new owner Steve Cohen, Super Bowl talk, and all things sports, and we hit on the economy as well. Thank you so much, Matt.